From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Tuesday, October 7th, and here are today's headlines. Montpelier is getting its first year-round homeless shelter. It's been a long time coming, says Julie Bond. She's executive director of Good Samaritan Haven, the nonprofit that will be running the new shelter.
We've been looking for many years for a permanent year-round shelter. That's just been really hard. It's been really tough to find the right property.
One big challenge has been finding a building outside the floodplain. But now Good Samaritan is renovating an old Victorian house a couple of blocks from downtown. Bond says the group hopes to open the 18-bed shelter early next year. A popular Lake Champlain fishing spot is temporarily closed to help support spawning salmon in the area. A marked portion of Hatchery Cove in Grand Isle closed on October 1st, and it will remain closed until November 30th to allow the landlocked salmon safer passage from the cove to Hatchery Brook, where they will lay their eggs. The Atlantic salmon in Lake Champlain are primarily supported by the Department of Fish and Wildlife, whose officials will collect the eggs and raise them in hatcheries before stocking the fish back into the lake. Birds are migrating across New England right now, and one of the biggest dangers they face is our windows, which can reflect the sky and look like forests or open space. Shada Soleimani runs a bird rescue center in Rhode Island, and she says birds flying into windows is one of the main reasons they end up in her care.
If you find a bird that's hit a window, the first and best thing you can do is get it contained immediately. It could be in a paper bag, it could be in a small box. Don't be afraid to touch it. Birds aren't as fragile as we think.
After that, she says, call your nearest wildlife rescue group and they will walk you through what to do next. Putting up window decals and turning off the lights at night can also help keep birds safe as they migrate. And we'll have more on bird migration and all things avian when Bridget Butler, known as the Bird Diva, joins us on Vermont Edition this Thursday at noon. And finally, call it your civic donut. If you're a Rutland County middle or high school student who can recite the preamble to the U.S. Constitution from memory, there's a free donut in your future. The challenge was put forward this month, and students who can deliver the preamble without reading it off a page will receive a sweet treat from Jones's Donuts. Marcia Castle is with Rutland County Indivisible, the sponsor of this civics challenge.
Looking for sparking interest to maybe dig a little deeper into the guiding documents that have served us as a democracy for over a couple hundred years. And this is a completely nonpartisan, fun engagement.
Students who take the Constitutional Donut Challenge are eligible to receive a free donut during the week of November 1st through the 8th. Students must qualify ahead of time by reciting the 52-word preamble from memory, and a teacher has to approve the attempt. Contact your Rutland County school for more details. And coming up, Vermont Edition's Michaela Lafrac spoke with Governor Phil Scott about a number of challenges facing the state, including a disagreement with the state employees union about whether they should return to more in-office work. We'll hear a part of their conversation after this. Starting December 1st, Vermont state employees will have to return to the office at least 3 days a week. More than 3,500 workers have signed a petition opposing the order. Governor Phil Scott sat down with Vermont Edition's Michaela Lafrac on Monday to discuss his return-to-office plan, and he also weighed in on the state of housing and health care.
First, Governor Scott, has this outcry in response to the order changed your position at all?
It hasn't changed my position. I understand the pushback from many. Is it easier to work remotely? Is it easier not to have to come in to an office and drive and get ready and so forth and all the things that come in everyday lives to address while you're working? Sure, I get that. But I've never envisioned state government as being 100% remote. I think we owe it to taxpayers to be in the office so that they can approach their government and be there and see their people in person. But I have to say as well, there's thousands of state employees who don't have this opportunity, never had, and can't. So we do have a bit of an equity issue there. I'm sensitive. I'm empathetic to some of their I guess outrage for some. But we've also heard back from state employees who've said, yeah, it's time everybody came back to work for at least 3 days a week.
Governor, it seems like A lot of the comments that we have received ahead of today's show and ahead of our conversation with Steve Howard from the Vermont State Employees Association center around frustrations with the process and timeline around this return to office order. I mean, we got one email today from a listener named Carmen who wanted to know why the state employees union wasn't included in conversations around the mandate and why state employees weren't asked about how a return to office would affect their lives before the mandate was made. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that, to the reasoning behind how the process was implemented.
We just came to a point where we knew we were going to do this. We wanted to do it back after the pandemic, and then the 23 and 24 floods came, and here we are today. It's not going to get any easier. The longer it goes, the more entrenched people are going to be. They'll never want to come back, and it'll get even more difficult. So we made the difficult decision in some respects to move forward with this, and we're going to stick with it.
Governor, a couple weeks ago, you signed an executive order that aims to speed up housing production. If the legislature votes this session to invest more state dollars than it already does in housing projects, especially in light of the high construction costs and the tariffs and the rollback of federal grant programs for housing, would you support additional investment?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're trying to present our budget at this point in time. We think that we need to focus on regulatory reform, which the legislature didn't address 100% in the last session. Without it, it's going to be difficult to build any housing that we desperately need, regardless of the amount of money we have.
Well, while we're talking high costs, I do want us to return briefly to the issue of healthcare. And just recently, these two private insurers, Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare, announced they're leaving the Medicare Advantage market next year. What policies will your administration focus on in the next legislative session that could help ease the burden of the cost of healthcare in Vermont? I know there were a number of laws passed last session that did try to do this. Are there more coming?
Medicare Advantage, I believe that was for the individual markets, so
yes.
They haven't completely abandoned the states. I think it's important for people to not be fearful that those who have Medicare Advantage through a larger entity and not individually are okay. But there's no doubt that we have to do much, much more in terms of healthcare. As I said, we're working with the Green Mountain Care Board and other entities, the hospitals and so forth, to do what we can within our means. And so I'm confident that we will be able to again get to a place where we can reduce costs, but we're going to have to look at overhead costs and some of the entities to do that, not duplicating services throughout the state. We have a declining population in some respects of under the age of 65, and so that means in the healthcare market there's fewer healthier people paying for all the rest of us.
That was Republican Governor Phil Scott on Vermont Edition Monday. You can find the full interview on Vermont Edition's podcast feed or at vermontpublic.org. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Carly Berlin, Jen Jarecki, the New England News Collaborative, and Mary Engish. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.